So now let's jump in and have a look at the demonstration of the packaging. So this is a sales order I've created, and it has one material. If I were then to note that the item category here is tan, and now I'm going to create a delivery. Oops, the date is not right, so I'll just update the date. And I'm now going to, you can see here, a quantity of 2 for the material. And I'm going to save this and create the delivery. So if I now in display mode, I can see for quantity of 2 for the material. Now if I were to go into change mode and I click on the handling unit, which is this button here, the packing button, the little box, Shift F6. So if I go ahead and click that, I'm now moved, or I'm now put into the handling unit screen. And as you can see here on the top, I have my handling unit. So I'm going to put in a material, my packaging material. I press enter, and it's now created one handling unit, one box. We have a handling unit number, and I'm going to put my material that's in the delivery into the handling unit here. So this box now is one handling unit, and it has my one material of a quantity of 2. And if we here, the first tab, we have the dimension of the box, the weight, the volume, and so forth. If we then go on the status button, we have status information here, which packaging material type we're going to use, which material group. We'll have a look at that in detail a little bit more when we look at the configuration. We have the packing material category and so forth. Here we have additional data. If there's anything else that we want to have, maybe some packing instructions, for example, shipping point, sales organization in case we want to sell the item category here as well, sales organization, and the item category here of the material. If we click on content, it shows you what's inside the box, the history, what's happened to it, and some general information. So here you can see on the header level is all of the information of the box. That is the SACC number that we talked about, and in SAP we can get that generated, or we can get that created by ourselves. So if I go ahead, if I save that, so now against this delivery we have one handling unit, i.e. one box. And if I were to go back into the delivery, you can see this new item here, which represents the packaging material. And if I click on picking, it has defaulted to the storage location according to the storage location rules. So as you can see here, for this item here, it's a new packaging material that through configuration I have automatically placed in the delivery. And what happens is when I do the PGI, or when I do the post goods issue, the material, the stock of this material will also go down. So if I were to go back here, you can see here, this is the highest level, which is the pallet, and that's the lower level for where the material is placed. We looked at packaging on the delivery. Now let's have a look at the packaging of the shipment. So if I run the transaction VT02N, which is the shipment transaction, I click on the packaging or packing icon here. I can put in my packing material. Like in the delivery, I can then put all of my materials in one or more handling unit. And if we scroll through, you can see that it looks exactly the same as the handling unit in the delivery. There's no difference at all, except there's a little bit more on the handling unit group. So what is the main difference between packaging or packing on the delivery level and on the shipment level? Well, you would pack on the shipment level or packing on the shipment level allows you to group multiple items from multiple deliveries into one handling unit that's been assigned to one shipment. So that sounds logical. So if I had one big truck or one shipment, and against it I had multiple deliveries, then one box could be made up of items or multiple items from multiple deliveries. So that is when I would want to do my packing on a shipment level. If I were to do my packing on a delivery level, then I would do my handling unit and packing on the delivery itself. Yeah, so that is when you would pack on the delivery level versus packing on the shipment level. So now that we've seen how the packaging is used in SAP, let's now have a look at how we all set it up. The first thing that we need to do is actually create the packing material. So we can either create a packing material with the group VERP or the group LEIH here for returnable packaging. So let me create a new material, MM01 to create a new material, and we can have a look at the material type. So if we have a look here in the material type, you can see here LEIH for returnable packaging and VFRP for normal packaging, so the packaging that we want to sell. So let's have a look at the one I've created. So here's a material that I've created before. Let's go into it. We can see the items that are relevant for packaging. So we have to have a look at the basic data view, the sales view, and the plant view. These are things where there are important aspects for packaging. So the first thing that you'll see, you by default have the gross weight of the packaging, you have the unit of measure, all the same thing. The item category group, VERP for packaging, of course, or LEIH for returnable packaging, but the important thing to note here is the material group for packing materials. And that's important because it then determines, okay, this is used to say what materials can be packed into this packaging material. We'll have a look at the config for this in a minute, but just make a note. Yeah, so this material, in this material type, yeah, so we then go into the sales view because we'll be selling this material, obviously. It's standard as any material. Sales org 2, just note that the item category is VERP for packaging materials. The transportation group is as per normal. Yeah, so this is the material group we talked about. The material packaging type tells you what type of material is it. So so these two in combination, yeah, tells you how the material can be packaged. And I just want to be clear. The top one tells you what type of packaging material it is, and the packaging material type says what can be put into a particular packaging. Now the second one would usually be maintained on normal materials, and the packaging materials would maintain the material packing group. So the material packing group might be A, and on the normal materials you would say all of the packaging material type, like 1, can go into packaging type A. I know it's a little bit confusing at the moment, but just hold on to that idea and then let's have a look at the configuration. So now let's have a look at the material group pack materials, which just says what type of packaging material it is. Yeah, so let's go into SPRO, into the configuration, and I said before, this tells you what type of packaging it is. So let's have a look at the configuration in logistics execution, under shipping, and the packing. And let's just double check material group pack material. So let's have a look at the defined material group for packing materials. So if we were to go in here, execute, and you can see here these are all the types that I've created before. Yeah, you can see here material groups 10, 20, pumps, trucks, whatever you want. Okay, so now look at the defined packing material types. Now, the defined material packing types describes and control what kind of handling unit it is. And what I mean by this is the packaging material type could be a pallet, it could be a box, it could be a metal cage, it could be a container of a shipment. So the packaging material type, I'm sorry if I say this a little bit slowly, sometimes I also get confused, so I try to use it a little bit slowly. The packaging material type holds all of the configuration for that handling unit. So if we have a box, for example, we would say, oh, whether you would need an SSCC number, whether or not you would need a number assignment. So let's have a look at the configuration, and then this will become clearer. So now let's go into a packaging material type, create, for example, and you can see the detailed configuration. The first thing you see is the output determination procedure and the output type, and this is used to print out the labels once you finish the packing, for example. You have the plant determination. So how do I determine the plant? Either I can determine it from the packaging material, or I can copy the plant from the first item that was packed. Yeah, and it's really by default how you would use it. I generally use B. It's simple. Packaging material category, I always use C. I'm not really sure what else to use. The generate delivery items, we'll have a look at this in a minute, but basically it controls when to create the item on the delivery, whether or not to use an SSCC number or to use an internal number range for the handling unit number. Yeah, we already saw this in our demo. Yeah, the handling unit type, I always use unrestricted, and the intervals for the numbering. So now if we go back to our presentation, let's have a look at the defined allowed packaging materials. And what this is it says, okay, for a particular type of material, what packaging material can be used on this material. So it says, let's say for example, material group A can always be packed in a box. Material group A cannot be packed, let's say, on a pallet. Yeah, so that's how it works. So let's have a look at the matrix. Hopefully it'll be a little bit easier for you to understand once you have a look at the config. So let's go back to SAP. I go back out one step and I select the allowed packaging material. So on the left you see the material group packaging material. What basically this is on each and every material you say, you assign it a material group, and you say this material belongs to this particular material group. And on the right hand side you say that for these types of materials can be packed into this type of packaging materials. Yeah, let me repeat that again. So on the left you have your normal material and you say it can be packed into a box. Yeah, so you would assign the packing group to that standard material. And on the right hand side is the packaging type of the packing material. So on that packing material itself you say this packaging material belongs to this particular group. And the combination of the left and right hand side says that these normal materials can be packed into these type of packaging. Yeah, I hope that's clear. It's a little bit difficult to understand, but I would suggest pause here or rewind and watch this again. Yeah, one last thing, they can be found on the material master as you saw before. Yeah, and they are assigned on the material master. So one material can be assigned to one type of packaging. And remember, if you wanted to have multi-level packaging, the packaging material itself can be assigned to another group of packaging material. So you can have, one on top of the other. Let's have a look at an example. Let's say I want to have a look at the material group packing type. So I want to see what can be packed into the packing material type V010. Oops, that's the wrong one. So here you can see here material group M010 can be packed into the packaging material type V010. That means that any material assigned the material group M010 can be packed into that packaging type V010. Now it gets kind of complex, I can understand that, and it's better before you do the configuration, do it on an Excel spreadsheet. That's what I've always done. So I've always said, here are the material groups, they'll be assigned to different materials, finished good materials. However, these are the packaging types that I have, these are the groups that I have, and I link them together in Excel before I even start the configuration in SAP. It's easier that way. Next, let's have a look. We now have to ensure that the delivery can accept the packaging material. So let's have a look at that. So if we go to the config, if we go to the delivery header, so under shipping, deliveries, define delivery types, let's have a look at our LF. And if we look at the details, there's a flag here that says generate pack material item. What this means is when I press the save button and I have a handling unit, take all of the packaging that you used in the handling unit and create a material item. Create a new item on the delivery. And lastly, let's have a look at the packing material types again. So if I go to packing and define packaging types, oops, not allow packing materials. Let me go back. So let me define packaging material types, and if I were to select my packaging material types here, you can see here the generate delivery items must be set either A or B. If it was left blank, you would not be able to, the system will not copy the item across. It must be either A, which is copy it for every shipping point, ship to party, or B. Because we are adding a new item on the delivery, it must be able to determine the item category on the delivery. So if we go to the define item category determination, if we look at the delivery type LF, for example, you can see here the usage is pack, which means it's the automatic population, and you can see here the item category is determined, so TAL and NUPM. So what this means is document type LF, item category, let's say VERP. The usage is pack, which is always populated if the system tries to automatically create a new item line based on the packing material in the delivery, and that would determine the item category. Because, as I said before, if the packaging or packing is done in the delivery, that packing material does not appear on the sales order, it doesn't have an item category, it cannot copy it from the sales order to delivery, it needs to determine the item category on the delivery itself. That's why you have to do the configuration. So finally, just a tip. If you have done all of this config to automatically get the packing materials to appear as an item on the delivery, and it's not working, you've packed the materials correctly, you save it, nothing is appearing, manually create a new item line for the packing material. SAP will then tell you the error saying item category cannot be determined or something else, and that is your error. That is the easiest way to see where is your missing config. Create manually the packing item on the delivery, get the error message, and fix it. Now finally, let's have a look at the post-goods issue. The post-goods issue marks the completion of logistics execution and the start of the shipment. This means that the goods have now left the plant and is en route to the customer. When we do a post-goods issue, or PGI in SAP, it carries out a number of important steps. There are more, but these are the most important ones that you should know. The first thing, it validates the document to see that all of the fields that it requires has been correctly populated, so that the document can be posted. For example, it makes sure that the storage location has been there, the picking has been done, and so forth. Also, when you do the PGI, based on the material movements, which we will look in the demo, it changes the status of the stock and, if relevant, posts a GL accounts. For normal deliveries, this means that the stock is reduced in the plant, and for stock transport orders, the material will be reduced in that plant and it will be moved into a in-transit status. The document is then marked as complete. The sales order is updated to say that the delivery is complete, right? And in most cases, the order or that quantity is made relevant for billing. If configured, we will now create some outputs using the message output procedure. This could be a simple ASN document or delivery note. We could even create an EDI to send an ASN to the customer. The PGI can be done by using the transaction VL02 by pressing the post-goods issue button. Another way of doing this is to use the collective transaction VL06, and in there's a collective button that says post-goods issue. If you are using shipments, we will have a look later, but just note for now that the PGI can also be done in the shipment complete button. And I'll cover that in the shipment lectures later on. A final note, if you can reverse a transaction, i.e. you can reverse the PGI by using the transaction VL09. This resets the document back into its previous state, provided that the invoice has not been created. So, let's have a look at doing a PGI in SAP. So, let's go to the VL02N screen, the change to delivery. If I go in, you can see that the pick quantity has been done, and in the document flow, you see that it's been assigned to a shipment. I've done my picking. Everything is complete with this delivery. So if I were to press the post-goods issue button here, you can now see that the delivery has been saved. And if I go back to the document flow, you'll see a new document called goods issue. And if I were to display the document, you can see that the system did a 601, which is a negative. It reduces the stock. And that's it. It's pretty simple. If we now go back into the document, we can also have a look at the accounting documents here. Give it a second. Oh, there we go. So if I double click on the accounting document, you can then see some GL postings. From a supply chain point of view, okay, we know what the GL postings do, but we're not too concerned about what the values are. Now, if I were to go back into the delivery, let's go back into the delivery here. And if I go to goods movement data, you can then, status overview, you can now see that the system has updated, saying that TS means everything has been complete. So the delivery now has been complete and confirmed. If I go to the item line view and I go to predecessor data, go to administrative data, you can then see the material movement 601. So what I wanted to show here is that the 601 movement, as we said before, comes from the material movement value on the schedule line. So when you create a sales order, it determines the schedule line. In that, through the configuration, it determines the material movement, which it puts on the schedule line of the sales order. When you create the delivery, it then copies that material movement number into the delivery. When you do the PGI, it looks at the material movement number and it executes. Based on the configuration for that material movement, it executes whatever it needs to do. By default, a shipping to customer is a 601, for example. If you look at stock transport order, it'll be a different movement type. That's why when you do a stock transport order, it moves it in transit, for example. Or that's why when you do a return document, you have a different behavior. It's all driven by the material movement. And that is the PGI process. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And if you have configured everything correctly as part of the process, it should be pretty easy to do. For packing, imagine for a minute that you've ordered some items from Amazon. You've ordered 5 items, A, B, C, D, E, and when you got home, so you find 2 boxes. So let's put it here. You've got home. You see that you have 2 boxes from Amazon that's been delivered. You ordered 5 items, but you only got 2 boxes. And let's say this is box 1 and this is box 2. And when you open box 1, you find out that material A and B was in box 1. So let's say it's been packed into box 1. Let's just use that phrase. Then you notice that items C and D, when you open box 2, was in another box. So you open box 2, you saw another box in there, a smaller box. And when you open this smaller box, you see the item C and D was packed in. And item E was just in box number 2. So all of this, taking each item, put them into boxes, preparing them for travel. For example, we call all of these activities picking. And you can see for box 1 and box 2, within SAP, this packaging is handled by a functionality or module called handling unit or handling unit management. And usually it's managed by people either in IM or WM, and they will do the configuration of how to pack. But we will have a look on why we would want to do packing, how we would model this in SAP, and finally we will also look at how we would configure it. We would do the configuration, and we would also have a look at a quick demo. So let's go on and let's have a look at how we would do the packing. In this lecture, we'll have a look at the business process of packing and how it's done in SAP. In SAP, the packing process is commonly known as the handling unit management. By the end of this course, you should be able to describe how the packing is done, why you would do packing, and how we would do it in SAP. Now, a note here. We are not going to go into a deep dive session on the handling unit management because there's quite a lot to cover, and it's commonly covered by the IM or WM consultant. However, what we are going to do is to have a look at how the packing is done, why we want to do the packing, and in general, how does it look like in SAP. So, an introduction. So when would you do the packing? The packing happens after the picking process. You've gone to the warehouse or to whatever location, you've taken all of those materials and you group them together in a particular location after you've picked them. So usually the location is either a packing station or a staging area. Wherever that place is, you have all of the materials that you want to ship, and you would then put them all in one or more containers so that they are now prepared and ready to be shipped. The reason why we pack them is so that they don't get damaged in transit or they get lost or something else. So as you can see in the process here, we have the picking, and after the picking, we then confirm the packing. And once we've confirmed the packing, the system may generate the packing list. The first thing to remember is that while this always happens as part of the order to cash outbound logistics, we may or may not want to model this in SAP. Now let's have a look how we would do it. So as I said before, the packing activities happen after the picking. Within SAP, there is a handling unit management module that handles the packing activity. And when you pack something, it's called a handling unit. So each box is a handling unit. It's just another document, it's another object that physically represents the box or the container that you put all the materials in. Yeah, you can store it either on the delivery or on the shipment. And the document, this handling unit, will have a header and item records. We'll have a look at that in our demo. On the header, we can have information such as the weight, the volume. We could have a unique handling unit number for that. We can also, on the item level, have the packed materials, the batch, the plant, where it was from, and so forth. So, as you can see here in the picture, one thing I wanted to note is you could have what we call multi-layer or hierarchical handling units. So in this example here, we see this whole container is one handling unit. And in the container, we have one pallet, which is one handling unit. So you can see here we have two pallets, and on each pallet we have two packages here. So this says that we have multi-level handling units, one inside the other. And all of these, we have the EAN number, which is the material number. We have the SSCC number, which is a tracking number. We have the packing material, so we can record if we use some boxes, and this we can record what type of pallet we were using, for example. We can record the weight, volume, and dimension of each of these, and the status, whether it's been packed, where is it a multi-level, and so forth. So why would you want to actually have packing materials and handling units? Because you already have the materials. Why do you want to now model in SAP the packaging? Well, some businesses don't do it. Some businesses say, physically, I am going to pack everything, but in the system, I don't need to record it. And some businesses say, yes, I need it. And the reasons for using the packing material and the handling unit is, the first one is they want to manage the inventory of the packaging materials. So packaging materials, as you know, could be another material in the inventory. You can buy it, you can have a purchase order, you can have an inventory level, and as you consume the packing material, you can go down. So it allows you to easily track the packaging material that you have in your warehouse, and when it's almost finished, you know that it's time to order some more. You could also record the handling unit that you're using, and you can use something called the serial shipping container code, which is the SSCC, and it's stored on each handling unit. And the importance of this is that this code is a industrial accepted code and can be quoted on the ASN, the Advanced Shipping Notification. If you're using EAN, electronic document interface, when you transfer all the information to the customer, you can then quote the SSCC number, and the person receiving the material will know, oh, I'm expected to receive 3 handling units. They have this SSC code, and when you do a goods receipt on the other side, it will say you might have 10 materials, but you are expected to only receive 3 boxes. Yeah. You can also enforce weight and volume limits on the packaging material. So for example, a pallet can only accept 100 kilos. Yeah. So you can put a maximum level. Okay, my packaging is the pallet, and it can only accept 100 kilos. So you can do some enforcement of weight and volume limits. If, for example, the determination of the packaging material is simple, you can get SAP to propose it. You can also generate the packing labels that will go on the handling unit. So if you have, for example, 3 boxes that you need to ship to the customer, you can then create labels that say box 1, box 2, box 3, SSC code, etc. So it's easier for you internally to track. And finally, if you know what packaging materials that you are using, you know what packaging materials that you are sending to the customer, this can be used for the reporting to authorities of packaging materials. This is quite important, especially in the European Union, as there are environmental reporting rules. So you must say how much packaging materials that is used, how many packaging materials it's been sent to the customer. These are standard reporting for the European Union. So the first prerequisite of using the handling unit functionality in SAP is the creation of the packaging material. And you can know a packaging material is, by default, the material group is VERP. We'll have a look at this in detail in the demo. And what I wanted to explain is that there are actually two ways of managing the packaging. The first is where the packaging material does not appear anywhere, either on the sales order or on the delivery and so forth. Yeah, you might pack a material on the delivery, but the packaging material itself doesn't appear anywhere. So you might, for example, have an inventory of the material in stock, or you may not have, and over time, as you use them, you just reduce the inventory of the packaging material day by day. So maybe you do a stock count or generally or whatever it is. Yeah, so this is where you have packaging, you have some inventory of the packing material, but it doesn't appear on any document, and periodically you just consume it. Further integration is what you can do is to have the packaging material appear either on the sales order or on the delivery. And as you ship the material out, you automatically consume, i.e. you reduce the stock of that material. So you know, for this customer, I have sent him X amount of packaging material. So how or what are the scenarios that we can use for packaging? The first of all is we can have the scenario where we include the packaging material, but we don't sell it to the customer. And usually, whether or not we want the packaging to appear on the sales order or on the delivery or not at all, if we are not selling it to the customer, it doesn't really matter. What we have included is the price of the packaging material is just part of the goods sold. So we already automatically included the price. We capture that we package everything, but we don't charge the customer. The second scenario is something called return packaging. And the return packaging means that we clearly record that when we ship to the customer, we record as a new item line. We will see this in the demo, the packaging material, and we can either outrightly sell it to the customer. So, for example, I pack the materials, the packaging materials appear on the delivery, and when I do the goods issue, that returnable packaging is sold to the customer. Now, I might also have a process to allow the customer to sell back the material, or the customer can just keep it. This is usually used when A, the packaging material is really not that high, or the customer may or may not return it. They might use it themselves. So for example, if I sell the customer some pallets, they might want to use it in their own system and never return it to me. That's fine, I just sell them outright. And the third is where it takes a very long time for the customer to return it. And a good example of this is when you purchase LPG gas or butane gas in those big cylinders. You know, those cylinders that have maybe 20, 30 liters of gas that you use for cooking or for barbecue. So what you would do is you would go to the shop, you would buy the gas, and you would also buy the cylinder in which the gas comes in. You would then go home, you would use all of the gas, and then you would take back the empty cylinder to wherever you bought it from. And there you can either sell back the cylinder, get some of your money back, or you could sell back the cylinder and then using that credit buy a new cylinder and fill it up with gas and then take it home. So there you can see the example. The customer can take that cylinder, go to another shop and sell it back. The customer might take a very long time or very quickly use that cylinder. So that's why you would want to try to sell it outright to the customer. Lastly, we also have consignment, which is the seller still owns the packaging material even though it's on the customer site. And in theory, it's on loan to the customer. This is usually used for packaging materials that are quite bulky, that the customer can never ever reuse, and should be returned back to the factory. So, for example, there is something called skillage, which is basically a big metal cage. Yeah, and a lot of times when you're delivering something, you might put all of the packaging in this big metal cage. You might then deliver it to the customer, and you want to track that the customer returns that metal cage the next day. Yeah, so that is kind of a consignment. Yeah. So it's important, as I always say, understand the business, understand how they want to manage the packaging material, and then you then have an SAP scenario that can fit it. So, in summary, we've seen how we could manage the packaging material, either from a range of nothing at all to fully managing it in inventory management, in SAP. We've seen some of the scenarios in which we place the packaging material in the delivery, either automatically through the handling unit, or we could even pull it in as part of the material sales BOM. So it's up to the business again. It always is up to the business process and the business scenario to drive how we manage the packaging material. What's important is to say, is it worth it to manage it in SAP? Because the more you have it, the more complex it gets in SAP, and the value in managing the packaging material itself. This again is up to the consultant's job to analyze the requirements of the business and make a proposal whether we should have all of these scenarios replicated in SAP.